Hello!
And welcome back to
What's the Safe Word?
I'm Am.
I'm Mr. Christopher.
And today,
we're doing it again.
it's a little different.
We have a little whiplash.
Oh, are we doing it? Oh, we got buttons. We're on the... This is actually our podcast setup. So if you're not familiar, we have a weekly podcast that goes up in video form on a Patreon, but it goes out in audio form every week. And this week is a little different because there's some breaking news that we just need to sit down, explain, and kind of, spread all that information.
Get into
out
update.
Oh, yeah. Give me your best newscaster. Go.
This just in.
OnlyFans has now
Backtracked.
They backtracked.
OnlyFans is ghosting us hard. So hard.
So
Harder than their performers.
Today's podcast episode that we're filming and refilming a bit because we filmed this a few days ago when news was breaking and now it's breaking again and we're just breaking everything.
It's changing by second.
So we're going to step in here every once in a while in some different shirts that you see here to just update you guys on the facts because this is an ever-changing topic. But the whole sex work is work topic of today's podcast episode is very much topical regardless of OnlyFans. But we want you to know how to better support your sex workers and just the sex working field in general.
And just because OnlyFans changed their minds doesn't mean we did.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. But on to the episode. Welcome back to What's Your Safe Word, the sex education podcast where Daddy doesn't always usually have a safe word right away, but you actually had that pretty
I had that in my back pocket.
Wow. Well, in your back pocket.
Whenever I start losing money, I start paying attention.
Oh, God. Okay,
that's why.
But we still need like a newscaster, like a breaking news sound effect. But I feel like it was literally just 2 weeks ago that we were talking about this, Daddy, but do you want to break the news or should I?
I don't know, but first of all, I'm Amp.
And I'm Mr. Christopher. Welcome back to the Sex Education Podcast. It's got a few kinks. This is What's Your Safe Word. Sorry, we're coming in hot.
And I'm going to just run the show now.
Okay, go. Go ahead.
So today we're going to talk about something very, very, very important, or what seems to be on everybody's mind because our inboxes are getting flooded with it.
And usually I don't mind my inbox getting flooded.
And I don't want to say that we told you so, but we told you so.
You know what people don't like hearing? Told you so. You know what we don't like hearing? Well, sex is getting deleted off the internet everywhere.
Exactly.
So I feel like besides the I told you so, which we don't want this to be a thing. I want to be very clear that we are not on the side of sex negative shit.
Nope.
And pretty much taking advantage of sex workers. But as of Thursday, the 19th of August, 2021, OnlyFans said that they were going to be making some changes. It was very unclear what was going on. But by the next day, the next morning, Friday, they came out with an update to their terms of service, which pretty much said that starting October 1st, they would remove pornographic content. So OnlyFans, who built their entire user base off of the backs of sex workers, specifically during quarantine, but before that, I mean, for years, they've kind of turned a blind eye. So today's podcast is kind of going to be talking about none of the history here, what comes next, maybe our own experiences and how censorship kind of works in insidious way into everything that you do, whether you realize it or not. Mm-hmm. But it was on Saturday that OnlyFans tweeted out for the first time ever, acknowledging that sex workers existed on their platform pretty much.
And they stole the hashtag sex work is work.
And at the same time, acknowledging that sex work exists on their platform, they pretty much said that, fuck y'all and your chicken strips.
No. That's not what they said.
No.
They said they were going to come up with a solution.
They said, and I quote, "Dear sex workers, the OnlyFans community would not be what it is today without you." Duh.
First acknowledgement
ever. Policy change was necessary to secure banking and payment services to support you. We are working around the clock to come up with a solution. Hashtag sex work is work. Now, within the first day, they had somewhere around 8,000 quote tweets and I think 6,000 likes. So they got ratioed as the term goes. And I think that they've actually paid for likes since then because now there's more likes than quote tweets. But still, the entire thread after that tweet where they finally recognize sex work as work is sex workers telling them that they don't get to use that hashtag because you've literally stolen the livelihoods of hundreds of thousands of people. Now, fast forward a few days later, today is August 25th, and Daddy, there's apparently an update.
Solution. They've come up with a solution. So today, and why we're doing this, they updated on their Twitter account. Thank you to everyone for making your voices heard. We have secured assurances necessary to support our diverse creator community and have suspended the planned October 1st policy change. OnlyFans stands for inclusion, and we will continue to provide a home for all creators. Never mentioned sex work. Never said, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And said suspended.
So I want, I have
equals
specific,
postponed.
specific notes on this. First and foremost, there's no apology for the gaslighting, the lying, the misrepresentation, or the lost revenue that people have already experienced.
What about the people who shut their accounts down?
Yeah. Or people that got deleted. Some people get deleted, but there were people that were saying, 10% to 30% of some of their followers just deleted it in the following days after OnlyFans made the first announcement. A lot of people also talked about the suspension, as you pointed out. Suspension of this change does not mean forever. It also does not clarify what their guidelines are going to look like on October 1st or whenever they update the guidelines, because we don't know if they're going to update their guidelines again in the next couple days.
Trust me, they will. If history teaches us anything, they will. Suspended just means put off.
Yeah. And my favorite point that I would like to make out, if you got fired from a job, and your job was like, hey, so you're inappropriate, you did something wrong, that even though you were following your job and we didn't really tell you it was a bad thing, you gotta go. And then, so they have a huge loss because they've literally fired you. And then they come back a few days later and they say, hey bestie, hey, you know that job you didn't have? Well, we've gotten so much bad press and everyone's very upset that you're gone. You have your job again and nothing's changed and you get to work the job that you were already, doing, even though, you found another job. Well, just come work here too. You get the same amount of money.
My response to them, my tweet back was, the saddest thing about betrayal is that it never comes from your enemies. It comes from #OnlyFans.
Oh, so true, bestie.
So they pretended sex work wasn't on their platform for so long. And then we all spoke up and they started getting negative press, but not just from sex workers. They got negative press from mainstream publications. This is the first time that they were on our side.
Yeah. And again, the only time, and even in that tweet, they didn't recognize sex workers. They just recognized that they heard our voices and they'll continue.
They'll continue to inclusive.
They'll
inclusive
support creators. They won't say sex work though again because they've already burnt that bridge. And once again, they got ratioed. There is so many more retweets, quote tweets on this than there are likes, and everyone is dragging them for filth.
And that's in the first 24 hours. The one we were just talking about was 7 days ago, and this is already almost doubled the retweets from 7 days ago.
So
and not positive because
I think most people have already either jumped ship or are still staying on the ship. But we'll break down what to do next on that here in a bit. But I say let's just kind of continue breaking down the past, because this isn't the first time. Again, this is not the first time we see this kind of legislation and ruling against people just trying to create sex positive content. Now, leading up to this whole announcement, my mentions were a bunch of, as I've mentioned before on a number of different sites, a bunch of people telling me I was incorrect, I was wrong, I was spreading fake news.
And we've been told this over and over and over, because we've kind of been reporting. We first sounded the alarm on Sesta Fosta. Mm-hmm. We've been watching this with a wary eye for a couple of years now.
Patreon, even back in 2017, we saw this coming as well when they took off all of the sexually explicit stuff, which included hypno, furry porn, erotic porn at all, really.
And who can forget Tumblr?
And of course, and Tumblr.
And how's Tumblr doing, by the way?
They went from 1.1 billion to 3 million.
I feel like you have a cricket song.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely.
How is Tumblr? Yeah.
Thank you for.
I'm going to produce the show now.
Anyway, starting
oh my God, that's
October,
a long cricket.
Well, you asked for it, okay? You asked for it. And so I became aware of this, I think, on Tuesday or Wednesday of that week. Like, I knew this was coming before it ever hit the news because I have some friends who work in publications, and they were like, giving me a heads up and had questions, and I'm just kind of curious if I had heard anything yet.
You got quoted.
I did. I was on a few different Out magazine related articles, as well as some videos that we were putting together. And even then, when we were working with Out magazine, people were still like, that's not how that works. They're not going to do it. You can't. No, stop lying. Stop spreading misinformation. Yeah. That's not how it's going to happen. Well,
Cut to 2 days later.
I hate to break it to you. Now, originally it was going to be on October 1st where these guidelines came out. Now, the 25th, today, they've rolled back to the original, but previous it stated, and I just want to read this because it's hilarious. Do not upload, post, display, publish content on OnlyFans that, and this is the specific porn stuff, shows, promotes, advertises, or refers to sexually explicit conduct, all in quotes, which means they have a gray area in their mind that is sexually explicit. They're not going to tell you what it is. It's the YouTube approach of, here's the stuff we don't allow, and here are some ambiguous terms.
So Carly B will have to take
Carly B.
her side down, right?
Did you just say Carly B?
Is it Carly B?
It's Cardi B.
Oh, Cardi B.
Carly Rae Jepsen, I think is what you're thinking. Oh my God. Well, that's just it.
I'm very hip. I know all these things.
Cardi B and Black China, which are some of their largest creators, put like foot porn on there. So is that sexually explicit? Like, I don't know, but there's totally, like, all their top, Belle Delphine, which just is words to you, I'm sure, does fetish porn. Like, Belle Delphine, one of their largest creators who's, like, big on the internet scene, used to do, and she did, like, some kidnapping scenarios porn, like, and it was all consensual, of course. It was consensual non-consent, and she got a bunch of backlash from just the internet, but OnlyFans let her post it. So, like, one of their largest creators that makes millions a year is going to not have a spot. It makes
me wonder if they were prepared for the backlash that they got, because I feel like they thought they're just going to go major Hollywood and not feel any repercussion from kicking everyone off.
Oh, they're idiots. Anyway, but can I let me finish this? The guidelines,
please.
You cannot have actual or simulated sexual intercourse, including genital on genital, oral genital, anal genital, or oral anal.
See, it said nothing about genital foot. So I think Cardi B. I just want to know
what an oral genital is.
An oral genital.
The way I'm pretty sure they mean oral on genital, but the way it's written does
oral
not.
Genital. Brush your teeth.
Please don't touch my anal genital. You cannot have actual or simulated masturbation. You cannot have any exhibition of the anus or genitals of any person which is extreme or offensive. So
what's extreme? See, all of these.
And again, subjectivity is the main key here. This is very much a YouTube issue too, where they say this breaks our guidelines and it might break this or that or this or that. Now, again, a few days later, they've now backtracked on all of that, but we can only assume that they're going to bow to the whims of their payment processors whenever that update happens with the card processors, and then they'll give us another nebulous sort of gray area, which I'm sure will heavily impact marginalized communities, especially those that create fetish content, which they were already very aggressive against.
Yeah, so it's still gray lines. Yeah. You don't know if you're going to get kicked off until you're kicked off.
Exactly, and they already have an entire list of keywords you can't use, of which some of them I get. Like, you don't want anything that's literally illegal. Like, I get that.
So, like in my scenes with like BDSM content, I can't use the word flogging if I've done a flogging.
Yeah.
You can't use piss. You can't use tons of things. But this is the one I really laughed at. They wouldn't let me use the word
consent.
Because
they don't want to talk about.
I said it was consensual.
Yeah.
And they banned me from using that word.
Yeah. No, because they don't want.
Why are we banning consent?
It's this whole context thing. Like, context is key, and they don't want to look through that. But it's like obscenity laws. Like, we see this in the UK all the time.
But how's the word consent bad?
Well, it can be bad if you say consensual non-consent or not consensual, or and what they're doing is by blanketing that entire term, they cause you to have to be very shady in how you upload your content. Like, imagine if I was like, we had the most enthusiastic consent scene. It was so hot and sexy, but that would be blocked because I use the word consent. where like overseas in the UK, just saying piss play or urine or even what other things did they used to block entirely? Like fisting, I know, was a huge thing.
Oh, fisting was always one.
Fisting's also blocked on.
That was a red flag.
Yeah. But it's the obscenity laws, and we've seen this for years.
So here's the thing. We have had obscenity laws. This is how they used to get us. We've had obscenity laws on the books forever, and they're still there. They could be enforced at any time. And this is, so I go way back in promoting smut,
Back
like
in my
30
day.
years. And I used to like distribute BDSM VHS porn 30 years ago. And I knew the risk I was taking. I knew that I could get shut down at any time and possibly be arrested. I had a lawyer on retainer in case that ever happened. So when I don't mean to be flippant about any of this, and I think it is like a travesty of what's going on, I'm looking at it through the lens of I have been down this road before over and over and over for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
I have had to fight for my right to distribute porn.
Did you ever need to use that lawyer?
No. I was very
God.
lucky. I was very lucky, but I did. There were some studio houses that I bought from that did and got into trouble.
I mean, look at Rent Men. You can look at, again, Tumblr got taken down, but like I know some people that worked for Rent Men just in like the graphics department. Like they made graphics for social media and they got arrested too, just because they happened to work for Rent Men, which is just ridiculous. And then that person who wanted to speak out about all the injustices and lies they were making about the people who work for Rent Men couldn't say anything legally, and also didn't want to say anything because then they'd be written all over the news again. Like, and that's where that stigma and that bullying of victims comes into play. And we see that here with OnlyFans as well, or even Pornhub, if we talk about that, these sites that are getting taken down for, and again, I want to be very clear, like we are absolutely against sex trafficking. Like that should be clear,
That's
but I have to say that.
We don't even need to say that. But I mean,
No, you need
BDSM
to.
sex wasn't sex trafficking ever.
Yeah, but child porn, obviously we are against that. We are all about protecting victims and protecting kids. But where these religious right and these credit card processors, which are the big deals here, like those are some of the big deals we will explain and talk about here. But what they are doing is they are bullying these websites and going after the porn specific websites just because there is porn there. They don't want porn to be a part of the conversation. They don't want sex to be something we talk about or we put out there on the internet for whatever reason. And in that, and I've got some stats here specifically. So there is, of course, MasterCard and Visa who control all of the credit card processing for OnlyFans. OnlyFans said that they were being pushed into this by MasterCard and Visa, but MasterCard and Visa changed their guidelines a while back, which pretty much said that you had to have documentation for everyone selling consensual sex work, which I don't know if y'all know in the audience, but Daddy, what site has had that in place for years?
Every porn site.
Well, yeah, but OnlyFans specifically has a very rigorous process where you have to give them all of your documentation, your ID, your bank account. You have to have your face filmed.
But can I be devil's advocate for one thing?
Do it.
So here is where they can't monitor. So a lot of OnlyFans people who upload also collab with other OnlyFans models and other models outside. Now, who is responsible for making sure that who they're collabing with is of age when they're putting up a video of something? So
I get that. I agree.
I come from studio porn, and in 2006, they implemented 2257 laws, which meant that every actor and actress in the videos had to have an ID proving they were of age.
Yeah.
And they set off a cutoff, like I think it was 1998. Anything produced before that was too old to go back and try to figure out. So I kind of understand that, and OnlyFans actually did something smart 5 months ago by requiring their OnlyFans models. They said this, but I don't know how they're going to implement this. They said that OnlyFans models could only put up content with other OnlyFans models, meaning that they have an ID on file because you started You started your page and your account with an ID on file. They check that. And that if you upload having sex with someone else, then it was someone else. They have an ID on file. That was actually a smart move on their part and made them kind of, what's the word?
Ahead of the curve?
No, owning a monopoly on the performers out there. Because then, everyone has to sign up with OnlyFans to be able to do it. The problem was, I don't think they can, I've still posted some things with models that aren't OnlyFans models. They were other models. I still had the legal proof of age, but they didn't. And so how did they know? And they didn't police or kick me off.
Yeah. I said only because those people weren't on the site and they didn't know OnlyFans.
So I think they had no way of implementing it.
Back in April of this year, MasterCard announced they would update this policy effective October 15th.
Okay.
So I think that's why October 1st is where OnlyFans is putting that implication
deadline,
in.
Right.
Yeah, and then in this new update that MasterCard made, again, and this is MasterCard that's cut off Pornhub as well because of quote-unquote unlawful videos. But now, today, the 25th, we actually have confirmation from the CEO of OnlyFans himself that said that it was JP Morgan Chase, Bank of New York Mellon, and the UK's Metro Bank that was blocking payments to the actual workers on OnlyFans. Now, reports that were being put out are unable to confirm because JP Morgan and others did not, at least yet, verify if that was true. But I want to step back and actually talk about how MasterCard has blocked and stonewalled a lot of credit card processing from sites like, for example, Pornhub. But within this update, is where the children and children pornography and people that are being sex trafficked comes into the discussion, because MasterCard is working with the Religious Right, or the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, NCOSE, and Exodus Cry. Have you ever heard of them?
No.
So they're the ones that are in charge of and have been charging the whole Pornhub thing. They are going after Pornhub for having all of these sexual, exploitative videos up. They're talking about, it's just a site for sexual exploitation and sex trafficking. Mm-hmm. And there are actual cases that existed on Pornhub. I'm not trying to downplay that. We should be taking account and taking accountability of and making sure these sites do take care of that. But within...
And that's illegal. If they find that, then they can prosecute those people.
And they should. But within that is where they started taking down everyone's porn and asking everyone to verify. Again, verification is not a bad thing, but the same people, the Exodus Cry people and the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, accounted for, 13,229 instances of what they deemed child sexual abuse material on Pornhub, while Snapchat had 144,000 instances, Google had 546,000, and Facebook topped everyone with 20.3 million instances of what could be considered sexual abuse material.
How on Facebook?
Why are we not going after Google, Facebook, and Snapchat of all sites?
Yeah.
So it is a very clear attack on these specific sexually...
Because they are porn.
Because it's porn.
Yeah.
That is it right there. But the same energy is not being put on the actual master, internet gurus, which are
the
Google
socially
and the
acceptable
Facebook.
platforms. So and so again, I'm going to harp back to, I have seen this attack over and over and over. So what they used to do, they tried to do in the 70s and 80s, and a good film for everyone to watch to just get a little history on this is The People versus Larry Flint. And they went after, and Courtney Love is very good in this movie.
It's a great movie.
And I'm sure it took some liberties.
Yeah.
But if people don't realize, they didn't like Hustler magazine. And
the boobs.
They tried to go after Larry Flint, and he even got shot trying to defend this by some religious zealot, which paralyzed him. But he stood up for his rights, and he said, and he won. He took it all the way to the Supreme Court under First Amendment or under freedom of speech. So they can't attack us on this angle anymore. But what they can go to is the hosting. Whoever's hosting it, and they're now going through the payment systems to try to shut down pornography because they don't like pornography.
Because sex is that tricky thing that it attacks money, it attacks the sponsors, it attacks the people trying to create the content. Like, this does seep into sex education as well, because they don't want sex to be a part of the conversation whatsoever, especially where sponsors are concerned. In fact, today's sponsor, Manscaped,
God, he's getting seamless with these.
has taken it off of our planet entirely and gone into what, Daddy?
Space.
And the only way that we are able to not only keep our lights on here, but make sure that we're able to create content like this is through our sponsors, our lovely patrons here on Patreon. If you're watching this video, thank you, patrons specifically. But today's sponsor, Manscaped, is taking its listeners into outer space. Space. From Australia to Houston, do we have a pube problem? Well, maybe, or just a body hair problem, or maybe you want to clean up a little bit. If so, our friends at Manscaped have cleared you for takeoff into their 4th generation with the brand new Lawnmower 4.0. Hit those pubes and body hairs to the next planet. Is Pluto a planet, Daddy?
I don't think it is anymore. I think it's a Disney character.
I know. If you would like your own savings today, you can use Watts20 at Manscaped for 20% off and free shipping. Again, that's code what, Daddy?
Watts20.
Now, we've used Manscaped for forever, both before they were sponsors of the show and obviously after, because we get to try all their new stuff. Daddy, how much do you love your Manscaped razor?
I love it so much because it has this light, because I have very poor sight. So if I can't see what I'm trimming, I might trim the wrong thing.
It's true. And personally, as someone who enjoys chastity and just keeping my hair in check, again, I use it weekly to just clean up hairs, but I also use it on my face because of the guards that you can use on the Manscaped are just nice for having a nice little bit of scruff, not too much. You don't want it out of hand. You don't want your followers to come for you because you grew a goatee, even though you made fun of goatees forever ago.
And if your nose hairs are getting a little unruly, you can use the Weed Whacker, and I get it right around my septum ring and don't have to take my ring out.
Beyond that, and the very powerful Lawnmower 4.0, which has, again, that LED and 7,000 RPMs. Oh, girl. There's a multifunction on-off switch for when you're traveling, so you're not going to get any weird vibrations through security. And if you get their entire perfect performance package, you'll get the Lawnmower 4.0, the Weed Whacker, hair trimmer, crop preserver ball deodorant, crop reviver and toner, the performance boxer briefs, and the lovely travel shed, which, again, I use everywhere we go. I love my travel shed. Keeps everything in place.
Far out, man. Space.
So, if abort Harry Balls and Buzz Lightyear that Woody with Manscaped. Again, that is offer code what, Daddy?
Watts20
to get 20% off and free shipping on all your Manscaping goods. Now, back to how much money was made during lockdown. Users spent $2.4 billion. That is
That's
B.
with a B.
On adult entertainment. And even today, which is when OnlyFans is backpedaling or suspending their ban, who knows if temporary or permanently.
They worked out the deal with the bank now.
Well,
suddenly, all of a sudden.
So again, they already have all of the safety nets in place that should have been fine with MasterCard, but they're saying that it's JP Morgan's fault for declining sex worker accounts, but JP Morgan refuses to make
They don't want to get
statements.
involved. They're saying nothing.
MasterCard has gone on the record to say that it's OnlyFans that did this and they're not pushing them, but then their guidelines are very, very...
And don't forget... we've had credit card processing issues before with banks. That's why CC Bill was kind of invented for porn companies to use. So there were alternative routes for porn and adult industry to use to collect payments. And there are so many different ways, actually. This is really up to the fans on how they want to pay.
And people want to put money into it. So oh my God, if you're making billions of dollars, I'm sure you have the means to make it even easier for you to do credit card. I mean, I'm no credit card processing expert by any means, but the number of people that are telling me to start my own porn site and figure it out, it is not the sex worker's job to make sex work better and easier. The reason that our society has such a negative view and outlook on sex work is because of society's negative view, outlook, and how they treat sex workers.
I just find it very odd that after they started getting negative press, they were able to figure it out. How many months before this have they been preparing and knowing about the terms of service with MasterCard? how come all of a sudden overnight they were able to do it? It's
Well, they needed
I'm baffled.
they needed a few days to make sure they were being inclusive.
They included both Visa and MasterCard and Diners Club and Discover.
But let's not even forget the fact that other processors and like online users like PayPal, if they even think that you're using it for sex work, if your email even says like XXX in it, they'll give you flack and they'll shut you down, and then you lose money. Where does that money? I mean, there are so many instances of sex workers using these sites, and if a user or a client accidentally says something like "thanks for the sex work," then they get shut down completely.
Yeah,
like it is not.
Don't use the eggplant emoji either.
Yeah, don't do that either. On your Venmo,
don't use eggplant.
Don't use the nope.
So I don't understand where this pressure is coming. And when I started my business in '96, distributing porn, and I incorporated and stuff, I had to get a credit card processor myself. And because my business was porn, they charged me higher interest rates on every transaction and service fees, which I was glad to pay just to get the privilege of having that.
Well, yeah, but what else are you going to do?
So
there is no other option.
They're making double from porn because they're doing higher rates. So this is where I get confused. Why are they pushing this so hard?
That's a great question. Well, I mean, religion
I only
mostly.
have good questions.
Religion mostly. Puritanical views also mostly. But I mean, like, sex is this tricky topic where we love to use it until it's, ooh, gross, porn. Ooh, that's what other people... I don't watch porn. I would love... Hey, lawmakers, assholes who pass Sesta Fosta. Oh, wait, that's all of you? Listen up. If you are going to be making any sort of legislation that is sex negative, affects porn, affects sex workers, first of all, you should be talking to sex workers. Do not just start looking at quote unquote stats. I got in a fight, well, not a fight, like he got ratioed as well. Some religious right-wing Republican was like, we're taking on OnlyFans a few weeks back because there are many, many, many cases of underage children using the site. And I just said, I would love to know your stats. And he said, well, the Department of Justice told us there were tons. And I'm like, that's not a number, girl. And like, yeah, kids should be safe, but where's your stats? Give me the receipts. And she never responded. But I'm just like, sex, if you are making sex negative legislation, I sure as hell better be able to look into, how like we look into the tax records of people doing money related things.
Not Trump.
Why? Well, that's a whole other can of worms, Daddy. But speaking of him,
you're supposed to be able to.
Guess who passed Sesta Fosta, but at the same time was trying to pay off sex workers so that he didn't get sued?
Oh, let me guess.
Yeah, Trump. If you are a politician or any sort of religious nutbag, and I can say religious nutbag. I lived through many years of religion. Trust me. If you are falling under that and you are trying to attack sex workers, you better give me your entire Google search history. You better tell me you are not going to touch anything sex work related, whether that's erotic fiction, imagery, pornographic material, video. If you are enjoying something someone made but telling us that we cannot get paid for it,
yeah, it's always the ones crying the loudest. It's just like all of these closeted gay politicians who pass the most stringent anti-homosexual laws every single time, and it comes out every single time. It's insane. So if somebody's crying wolf, look into it.
Yeah. In fact, speaking of Sesta Fosta, and it was in 2019, I think almost a year after Sesta Fosta has even been passed into law, that we started asking questions. And for a brief reminder, Daddy, do we remember what Sesta Fosta is?
Stop Enabling Sex Trafficking Act and fight
Online Sex Trafficking Act.
Yeah.
Now, these bills that were passed into law under Trump pretty much were set up to be like, okay, we're going to help sex workers and we're going to make sure sex workers are not getting trafficked. And again, we are not for sex trafficking. That needs to be very clear here. But it's when they put these sex negative legislations in front of Congress. Did you know how many groups actually stepped in front of Congress to talk about from a sex worker's perspective?
Probably zero.
Absolutely.
But do you know how hard it is for a politician to vote for anything that has sex trafficking in it, especially in the title?
Well, and the way that they did this was very insidious because they swept it in with a bunch of other things that were real good. It was bipartisan. Like, I'm not trying to give politicians a hard time, but I am going to hold politicians accountable and be like, what the actual hell? You are passing bills and laws and not even consulting the people that it's largely going to affect? Like, we're not talking about consumers. We're talking about actual sex workers that were pushed onto the streets where it's dangerous as all fuck.
And it's not helping stopping sex trafficking at all. It's actually it's making it worse.
Yep, it did make it worse. And we have stats that say it was up 130% in California alone after it was passed. But it's only a year later in 2019 when we actually started asking questions about, I wonder if this worked. I mean, there's lots of people online talking about it. Even the criminal justice system is like, this isn't actually helping. The police on the streets are saying that it's actually making it worse. Maybe this was a bad thing. So I want to just challenge specifically Elizabeth Warren and Mr. Bernie Sanders. Y'all are on the bill here. Y'all are actually asking questions now back in 2019. I want to know where the information is. I want to know if you've gotten anywhere. I want to know if you're talking to actual sex workers now and getting our perspectives on this.
Where are the receipts? Where
are the receipts? So they've actually started to look into a repeal of Sesta Fosta. In fact, a Rep. Ro Khanna, who is a Democrat in California, and a few other members of Congress are looking to vote against the legislation, and told Vox in a recent interview, back in 2019, that when talking about sex workers and Sesta Fosta, it's not that their perspective was defeated, it was that their perspective wasn't even considered.
Sure.
So Khanna introduced a bill to study the impact of Sesta Fosta, looking at whether it had actually reduced trafficking or made it worse and less safe. I can tell you what it actually did. So 2 candidates that were in the 2020 Democratic elections, presidential nominee Senator Elizabeth Warren, introduced it in the Senate, and Senator Bernie Sanders was an ongoing sponsor. So for this legislation, Khanna, again, Rep. Ro Khanna, worked closely with the sex worker rights group, including HIPS and Reframe Health and Justice, and consulted a collective that focused on marginalized communities. We need to, as a community, continue to push and hold our politicians accountable on sex negative legislation. And this is why, because they do this thing where they're quote unquote proponents for, protecting sex workers, but they're not talking to actual sex workers until the damage is already done and we have to spend another 20 years undoing it.
Especially politicians we like and want to support. We just want them to do the legwork.
Yeah. And again, we just want them to talk to us and take us into account. Like, we need to consult actual victims of these things and not use them for the gain of companies. Like Exodus Cry and these other religious companies use the victims for profit. And those victims don't see any of it.
Yeah.
These companies
they
make
just
money.
Clutch their pearls and scream, think of the children.
Which we know always leads to real bad, real terrible, real awful censorship. Anyway, what happens next, Daddy? I mean, we know what's happening, which is, again, the NCOSE and the Exodus Cry people are going after sex work. And what's really fascinating, actually, a lot of people are very distraught this last week, obviously, because this is stressful shit.
Yeah, and there's lots of people who lost their jobs over the pandemic who turned to doing sex work and starting platforms and now have become reliant on the money. Is also a safe thing for them to do at home during a pandemic instead of going out. So now we are killing the livelihoods of
hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
And my favorite part in all this was the sex workers calling out the news. The news was covering, I forget what, when, and how, but it was during the elections where like 50,000 coal miners lost their job in the city, and everyone was reporting on it. Front page news. It's so bad. Oh my God. And I'm not trying to downplay coal miners. Your jobs are very, very dangerous though. Like, why are we putting people in there? But the second that OnlyFans was dropping hundreds of thousands of people of which made up 2.4 billion on a website during a few months of a year of quarantine at this point, no one was running the front page story about the sex workers and asking the sex workers how they were being affected or what that meant or how sex workers' rights need to be talked about and the decriminalization of sex work needs to happen. Our society is so broken.
And it was disheartening to see even people in my own feed who I'm friends with, they're joking about it. They're like, oh, well, now it's time for them to get a real job. It is a job. It is work. And we shouldn't be joking about that. I mean, even a blowjob has job in the title. If you
Sex work, it's right there in the fucking name.
It's work.
Dingbats.
It is work.
And my favorite is people coming back like, it's not called sex work, it's prostitution. No, who the fuck cares what you call it? But also Google prostitution and you get right there in the definition a pejorative, negative term for sex work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's mind-boggling to me how some people are.
It's mind-boggling, but and
they'll be the same people who consume it.
Exactly. Anytime anyone comes into my mentions and is like, it's not real work, it's not blah, blah, you shouldn't have to pay for it, and I'll be like, okay, so you can tell me right now 100% you have never used porn, enjoy porn, watch porn, read porn, and they shut the fuck up.
And I've shot porn for 30 years. I've been behind the camera, I've been in front of the camera, and some of these content creators on these platforms, they put so much time and effort into what they're doing to make it look good, to answer every single person who's following them, and to make them all feel special. It's very therapeutic for the people who are paying for these sites as well. I know I have tons of fans on my sites who I engage in conversation with every day. And I hear every day how much joy it brings them in their life.
Isn't that funny though? Is that like the trolls and the religious right are like, you're taking advantage of, it's not humanizing, when in fact the people that are paying for your content want to humanize and get to know you because you're a human.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about, we've talked about this before. So when I come from the studio system, and the studio system like Colt and Falcon and these big gay porn names that I've worked for, we tried so hard not to humanize the actors. We try to make them these sex objects that, very masculine, and in Falcon's case, everyone was tanned and white bubble butt, and that was their formula. But these fan platforms really pulled the veil back on who these models were, and people really liked that. They liked hearing about their day and what makes them tick, and their workout routines and all sorts of things. So they got to know them on a personal level.
Yeah.
And that's what I like the most about the fan platforms, is that access, and also giving the model control over their image, and the majority of the profit.
Yeah.
So the studio systems would just pay you blankly, but they're the ones making the money. Now it's the creators that are making the money.
Well, and so like I know a lot of proponents of like sex work is bad, and I regret doing it. Like I forget her name, but she's very outspoken about it because she had scenes that went viral that she didn't get proceeds of. Like she didn't get extra money.
You mean they took it from her fan site?
No. Oh. This is back when studio porn was huge.
Studio porn. Right.
She and now I need to find her name, but she did scenes and later on found out that they were going viral, and she only got paid, $700 for a scene or something. And it went literally like made the company probably millions of dollars. And so now she's like, well, I didn't know I was getting into, and sex work is bad, and you need to know. And she's looked at as like a very outspoken sex worker. And I think that we should have checks and balances for checks and balances. But like, sex work is a line of work in which people get into because, as you've said, Daddy, I can wake up when I want. I can work on the stuff that I want to work on. I can make the scenes that I enjoy making and work with the people I like to work with, and pretty much be my own boss, call the shots. And I would much rather someone did that consensually, knowing what they're getting into and doing that, than working at a 9-to-5 job that sucks your soul out, that makes you work weekends, that makes you, get up at 7 a.m. for a meeting with people that really don't care about your well-being, versus people that are paying you to make fun, sexy content that you enjoy and that they really, really, really enjoy. Okay, her name is Mia Khalifa.
Oh, Mia Khalifa. Yeah.
Now, I think that we need to protect victims and make sure that we're not taking advantage of people. I think that porn can be wonderful for women because they're generally paid more than anyone else in the scene. But I think that there are insidious companies that will take advantage of people if you're not safe. And that's why I think things like OnlyFans is great. But then you have to also take into consideration those checks and balances. All that said, I think that there are silver linings to this, as terrible as it is, in that this is one of the first times that news coverage is now coming around after this. It was trending all week, all about OnlyFans. Every time news came out, now we're actually seeing news sites that are talking about NCOSE and Exodus Cry as bad.
Yeah.
They're talking about these religious companies as being the ones that are driving this sex witch hunt. And they didn't expect that, these companies.
And it's going to impact the financial. This made Forbes. This is making Newsweek. This is making big name publications now.
So now some of these people are talking about Pornhub again and saying, well, this is run by the same people that are going after OnlyFans, and are also now talking about Twitter as a bad thing. And we're part of the Tumblr discussion.
And I keep wondering how Twitter is able to keep doing it. So is Twitter an app?
Yeah.
On the App Store?
Correct.
How can they show porn?
That is a great deep dive that I don't have the know-how or engineering behind to look at. But you do
because
have...
Apple's very puritanical when it comes to their apps.
It's true, but you do have people that are now talking about Twitter being this place where all of this child porn happens. And again, while that might be possible, we don't have stats. These people are just talking out their asses.
Making it up.
Where we do have stats on, again, Google, Facebook, and large companies that do have problems around this that we're not even talking about because there's not as much money there maybe. Or they don't want to piss off the social...
They can fight it.
Yeah.
They have enough money to fight it.
And I think that that's where it falls, is like Twitter and Google, YouTube, and Facebook are these powerhouses that can get around these monopolies because they have the money. So I'm wondering, and again, I don't want Twitter to get shot down, but like, what comes next? This is where I think we talk about like what do you do if you're getting pushed off this platform, Daddy? I think some insight for people that might be on these sites, be it consumer or creator, like what do they do next?
So I think it's going to depend on how much people prepared for this and saw this coming, so that they had backup plans and contingency plans in place. So if you were an OnlyFans performer and that's your only place that you put content, you're going to have to scramble to find a new site to put content on if you want to keep that revenue going. And you're going to have to be able to convince the people who follow you to follow you over to that platform. Now, that being said, right now is the worst time in the world to do that because probably hundreds of thousands of people are trying to do that, and it's crashing sites.
My sites that I use, my backup, my Just for Fans and other sites were all crashing on Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Oh, I tried to upload a picture to Just for Fans this morning and it never loaded. And that's just one picture. I don't even attempt a video right now.
Which is why having a domain or some sort of link, and I give Daddy a hard time about brand consistency, but I will give you a credit that you always say MrChristopher.com.
Yeah, because I don't know where. I've owned MrChristopher.com for 20 years, and it has been pointed to different, like I used to be on Blogspot. Blogspot got shut down for a reason like this. Then I pointed it to, was it?
Probably Tumblr.
No, it was before that. There was a Thumbblogger. So I went to Thumbblogger. That was out of...
Sorry, where's your thumb at?
And then Thumbblogger got shut down overnight with all my content. So then I pointed it at... What did I go to next? Oh, Tumblr. Then I pointed it to Tumblr.
You just said you didn't point it to Tumblr.
No, I'm trying to give you the correct
the chronological.
Timeline.
Anyway,
and then
the point being,
after that, I
have a domain.
Yes, and that you can point when these things go down.
Also, make sure that you are requesting your payouts now. Please do it now. I just went in like every other day this week. I've gone in and requested payouts because the way OnlyFans specifically works. Thank you, Bella Thorne. Is they it's a little bit of a backlog of payments, and so you slowly get access to all your monies. But please request your money as soon as you physically possibly can, because if OnlyFans goes under or something weird happens, it's going to be a shit show.
It'll be a class action lawsuit at that point.
If you don't have your money, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah. But this kind of goes into my dad tea too.
Wait. Daddy. Wow, 40 minutes in and we have dad tea.
Oh my
this
God.
First.
So, and I'm going to address this now because people have been asking me in my private messages and stuff all over the place. So back in 2019, I signed on to a company called Is My Guy, and Is My Guy gave me carte blanche to start a new community just for males, like OnlyFans. And I liked the platform. It actually was a little better than OnlyFans in some places. Did I say flans?
OnlyFans. I would love some OnlyFans right now.
It's going to be a dessert company.
Yum.
Anyway, so but the biggest problem with it was an unknown. So I went to big producers that are content creators that I knew and tried to get them to come on board. Is My Guy, even offering them higher percentages like 90% and such and such. And the other thing was, because I was a fetish model and this company knew that, I knew like I could get ABDL and other fetishes safely on this platform that OnlyFans was trying to kick off.
Yeah, we're usually a Patreon, OnlyFans, or any other site. It's seen as explicit, quote unquote.
But I had a hard time convincing people to come over, and people I genuinely thought were going to be on board and want to even if they weren't going to make money right away, they wanted to support and do a community environment for fetishists. And I even told them OnlyFans is a big corporation that doesn't care about you, and we could create an environment here. But I couldn't. That we were too small to go against OnlyFans, without enough people coming over to help create this community I was trying to do.
And then some of the other sites were even seeing that new sites are popping up and would start to enact like exclusivity contracts where you got more.
So I got pinged by the other sites I was on and like, oh, you're our competitor now, and da 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 da. So it was a hard road for me to navigate, and I kind of, at the end of last year, I kind of threw my hands up and said, I can't create this anymore. Even like people who were making tons, like Rope Train Keep on OnlyFans and stuff. I'm like, they're going to kick you off one day. And look, here we are. So, but had they come over and started a site, this would have been a boon opportunity, but now it's too late.
So it's hard to know exactly where to take your stuff, but that's where, again, having a domain is helpful, and also looking into the other sites that do exist. I mean, there's For My OnlyFans, there's Just for Fans, there's Is My Guy, there's many vids, there's still Pornhub, I think, but I don't know how that works. You have to really look into if it works for you, if it doesn't, and what they're giving you, because again, some of these sites are going to ask for your exclusivity, but then what happens when they become the next OnlyFans? If you're exclusive on this site, you have content nowhere else.
Right.
And this is where it's like, everyone's like, well, why don't the porn stars and the sex workers make their own website? Don't stop putting it on the sex workers. This needs to be our society actually recognizing that sex work is work and working to not only destigmatize, but decriminalize sex work. And again, decriminalize, not legalize. That's a whole other topic in itself. Mm-hmm. But decriminalization of sex work, if we're just getting the nitty gritty quick points here, is by doing that, we are not only working for sex workers' rights, but we are reducing mass incarceration and racial disparities in the criminal justice system. Mm-hmm. We are going to reduce police violence against sex workers. We are going to make sex work less vulnerable to violence from clients because, again, if you're online, you're able to vet people. This is why Sesta Fosta was so bad. By decriminalizing, you would allow sex workers to protect their own health, which should be like sex workers' rights or human rights, and would advance the equality for the LGBTQ community at large, because so many of us in those marginalized communities turn to sex work as another line of work or just a way in which we can express ourselves. And even if you're not getting paid money, sex work is transactional in many ways, So there's tons of resources for decriminalization of sex work. Maybe that's a topic for another time. And I absolutely don't have the time to talk about that today. But like, we're trying to be resources here to point you in the right directions and to look out for and just watch out for yourself and each other, because these businesses at the end of the day don't care about you. They care about the money. Yeah. And OnlyFans thinks that by kicking off sex workers and making their new OnlyFans TV app a thing and putting out these new guidelines, they're going to bring in more investors. But as we saw with Tumblr, You went from billions of dollars in estimated value to now a few million.
Yeah.
There is so much money in sex, and there is so much that sex workers can do for you. Right there in the title, sex workers. We are really good at working. We are amazing allies, but if you scorn us, if you scorn this community, we will take you out with us.
And our job is literally making you feel good. That is our job. We will work hard to make you feel good.
So while I'm not threatening any companies, I am giving you a very fair warning that, as we saw with OnlyFans trying to very not well at the very least, tried to diffuse the whole situation by saying sex work is work. You had an entire thread where nobody cared what you thought.
Right.
Nobody sided
they came,
with you.
You know, once you've scorned us, we are not taking it.
And it was actually kind of funny as a personal, like, not tea, but just an experience. Myself and other sex workers were going on all of their like big posts that OnlyFans was making about like they're photographers and they're videographers and they're podcasters and they're girls that teach you about chess but have their titties hanging out. Every single one of those posts were just full on sex workers being like, so where's my money? Where's the 20% you took from me? Give me the 20% back. You guys are now, oh, you're promoting this? What about the sex? Every single one of those posts were flooded with sex workers that were not very happy.
Yeah.
So if you think that this is going away, OnlyFans, oh, you got another thing coming.
Well, here's the other thing. So take into account, we're talking about the content creators coming for them.
Yeah.
What about their fans? Wait, their fans are going to get pissed off. So you're taking away where they go to feel good and safe and are sympathetic to whoever they're following. Do you think they're going to pay for whoever the next big thing, Shania Twain coming up using it?
No.
No, they're not, because they're going to be pissed off and mad,
There
and
will
they're
be
going to
some
follow
people that'll stay there maybe for Cardi B and Black China and whoever else has I don't know what movie stars have OnlyFans.
Was my Shania Twain a little dated?
I couldn't tell you. Man,
Didn't impress you much.
I feel like a sex worker. Bow, bow, ba-da. She sang that, right? Did I get that reference?
Yes, okay. You got it right.
Going out tonight, feeling all right. Gonna let it all hang out.
Wow, I'm shocked you knew that part.
Okay, I'm gonna let it all hang out like a sex worker.
Yeah.
But speaking of sex workers, so our own 2 cents on this. We have like 10 or so minutes left, Daddy. I think we should give our perspectives on this. Okay. First and foremost, fucking go tip your sex workers. I logged into my OnlyFans today after being off it all weekend because I just felt really shitty about all this. Like, my week was stressful because I had tons of people in my text messages, my DMs, my ats on Twitter specifically, because I was talking a lot about this and trying to help with resources, but just so many distraught, upset, sad, freaked out people that's livelihoods are now going away because they primarily worked on OnlyFans. Like, that is a lot of fucking stress.
Yeah.
So please, if you have the means, go tip some of your favorite sex workers. This is not me begging for money, but this is me begging you to go help people that are going to be in a weird spot come October and December. Like, the content will still be available for you to watch. So if you're not tipping every time you go in there, even if it's $1, like, to let them know that you enjoyed their content while it's still up there on OnlyFans, please go tip them. Just the tip. Give them just the tip if that's all it takes. Like, tip your favorite sex workers. Follow them on their other social media so you know where they land, and support them. Tell them that you appreciate them. Go tell a sex worker today that you really love their content. Like, just let them know that they make you happy.
Yeah, and another thing, and I'll go back to the comments of go get a real job and stuff. You know, what sex workers go through to maintain body and health and how they look and how they perform, and it may look like they're just at the gym all day, but yeah, they are, because they're trying to look good. They're trying to look good for their job, and it takes a lot of fucking work and a lot of dieting and a lot of it's exhausting. So it's not something most people want to do all the time. So, and they're doing that for their job. So it may look like they have a life of leisure, but not when they're at the gym 2 or 3 hours a day and eating just chicken and rice.
Well, I mean, if that's all I had to do to create content, as somebody who creates content, if I just got to hang out at the gym and sleep in and eat, chicken and rice, like I'd be fine with that. It's the other stuff, the shooting, the editing, the planning,
editing alone.
Then the promoting, like there's so much to it. And like,
how many times have you shot something and you're like, oh shit, it didn't record, or lost a chip with the entire scene on it?
Well,
how many
I
times
haven't done
happened?
that, but certain people in this room have.
Oh, just me? Oh, come on. I've heard you.
I've had bad audio before. I have never forgotten to push record, but I have absolutely, like, my frame rate was
they make that
off.
button so small. It's so small. So I have shot so many fantastic, amazing scenes. I wish you could have seen.
But you never
forgot to hit the record button. But I thought it was recording the entire time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, so the sex work industry is dangerous because of how our society treats sex workers, not because it's inherently dangerous, but because our society just hates sex work. And it is.
And I'm not sure why that is, because everyone likes sex.
But I think not everyone has it. And I think not everyone feels good about their sex. And I think
so
people,
they're projecting.
Yeah, exactly. That is ding, ding, ding,
that
ding,
makes
ding.
sense.
A lot of what I think are the problems come from projection, come from insecurities, come from stigmas, and come from people that are like, well, sex workers, it's not a job, even though they're going home at the end of the day and jerking their chicken to a bunch of sex content that sex workers have created. And again, erotic fiction writers are creating sex content.
Now you got me hungry for jerk chicken.
Oh, you're welcome. People that are drawing fan art, people that are drawing artwork, that is content that could be considered a form of like sex work and just services that you are creating. You're creating this sexual outlet. So if you don't think that is stuff that should be paid for, then you're just asking for people to work for free. And if you worked for free and didn't get paid, you'd probably be upset too.
Yeah. And the other thing is, you don't have to pay them if you don't want to, but don't stop other people from doing it if they want it. That's the part I don't understand. It's if you're shouting about this and you're not paying for it, what do you care? Seriously.
And my favorite, at the end of the day, my favorite is OnlyFans thinking that they are not a sex work central.
I mean, I get what they're trying to do and how they started. They didn't start as a sex site, truthfully.
No.
That was not their goal.
But
that's just what catapulted them into space.
No, and so they started as a place for creators to create content. That was all they said. They didn't have any guidelines that said sex work wasn't allowed, but they saw sex workers flocking, not just kind of casually coming in, flocking, talking about the experience, making sure it was okay to be here. And once they saw that it was, and people were making, some gay people were making upwards of $100,000 a month at the very least.
Yeah.
Of course, OnlyFans wasn't going to say no to that.
Nope.
20% of that, they're making tons of money for just providing a platform. But Daddy, I feel like while we got a few minutes left, let's play a fun little game of if other companies polled an OnlyFans. So fill in the blank.
I no longer call it OnlyFans, by the way. I call it OnlyBands.
Oh, that's a good
OnlyBands.
Rebrand.
We only ban sex workers.
Fill in the blank. Okay. OnlyFans without porn is like blank without blank.
Starbucks without coffee.
Yeah, I knew you would go with that. Starting October 1st, we'll no longer be selling the pumpkin spice latte. Instead, we'll just be selling pumpkin spice flavored water. Blech.
How about NASCAR without cars?
Or McDonald's without burgers, and only their ice cream machines work, because you know how their ice cream machines never work.
I think that McDonald's just stopped selling the milkshake. I just read that this morning.
No, I read that they were doing some sort of lawsuit with their ice cream machine provider because the ice cream machines are always out or something. Oh. It's a whole other lawsuit.
But this should be Dairy Queen without ice cream.
How about Pride without kink? Oh, don't get me started.
Oh, wow. That's a twofer.
We tweeted this out, by the way. Amp without puns. Oh, how dare you?
Oh.
No.
Well, that wouldn't be that bad. Would that be that bad?
No, we're not putting that out there. No.
I mean...
Well, how about a Pizza Hut, but only breadsticks? Like, why would you wouldn't go to Pizza Hut if they didn't have pizza?
It'd be Bread Hut.
Exactly. It wouldn't be pizza. The only tops you'd get is the person delivering the pizza. Or the toppings, apologies.
Oh, by the way, when we were at our parents' house and they got that pizza, did you know they're putting cheese in the crust now?
It's called stuffed crust.
Oh,
Have you never had stuffed crust
No,
pizza?
that was the first. I never heard of it.
What? Daddy.
It freaked me out a little.
How have you never had stuffed crust pizza?
I don't order pizza a lot.
Okay.
Or
Tumblr without porn. No.
What's Tumblr?
Exactly. Imagine Cinnabon, but only muffins. Would you like someone to butter your muffin for you?
You're making me very hungry right now.
Okay.
You started with jerk chicken.
Oh, no. Okay. Daddy, what do you have? What is your final thoughts on the issue?
Well, my neck hurts from all this whiplash going back and forth. I don't know. I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop. There's got to be something else. They said they sent out an email to all their content producers, but I haven't gotten one.
Oh, I literally just got it minutes before we started filming, and it's like the afternoon that we're filming this on the day that it happened. Same thing happened when they were about to delete everyone. I got it at like 5 p.m. that day. I had friends in the news that were telling me that this was going to happen days before that even happened.
Right.
So it's just like the communication's terrible. The transparency's not there.
Yeah, I actually kind of feel bad for their PR person because they are doing a terrible job.
Hopefully they're getting paid. No.
No, they're just trying to walk this fence. They want to be this mainstream company, but they don't want to piss off their cash cow, but they also don't want to admit their cash cow exists.
They don't want to milk that cash cow.
They don't want to milk it.
If you make a video,
if they do milk it, they want to do it
it
from a 10-foot pole. They don't want to use their actual hands to milk it. They just want to.
All that said, do we trust OnlyFans?
I don't
Not at
know.
all. I think that the best course of action here is not trusting them as far as you can toss them. I mean, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me 3 times and spit on my whole.
But here's what I will say. People will remain on OnlyFans. I'm going to remain on OnlyFans.
Sure.
I'm not changing my platforms. I've got my backups in place, and we've done everything that we've said on this broadcast to do. The problem is OnlyFans has a built-in algorithm that makes money. So asking sex workers to just abandon that platform with no safety net, this is really up to the fans. Mm-hmm. So the fans have to go to the other performer's platform to show solidarity with them. So this is really in their hands.
And to show parallels here, this is the same issue with like a YouTube versus a Vimeo sort of thing. Mm-hmm. You can't come to the YouTubers, the creators, the content creators and say, well, why don't you make your own platform? Why don't you fix the problem? You can't fix a problem that is out of our expertise, that is out of our hands, that is out of our knowledge. It's not the creators on YouTube's fault that an algorithm gets out of hand and becomes homophobic or racist, as we've seen on this exact platform. But we have to still support the creators somehow. So I'm going to exist on OnlyFans still, but I probably won't promote them ever. I don't trust them, surely. And I'm going to build my backups that make sure I still have a place to exist when everything, gets pulled out from under our feet again.
And having a performer create their own platform is a way bigger chore than I just found it when I attempted to do Is My Guy. I could not get people to back me to do it. And I wanted to build an inclusive community. Everything they're railing against right now that's happening with OnlyFans, they had that opportunity to do it and didn't because the money was too good. So it's a lot easier to say that than to actually do.
Sure. But in all of this, we need to show solidarity as content creators if you are a creator of sorts, but also as consumers, we need to hold these platforms accountable and literally tell sites like OnlyFans, you would be nothing if not for the creator. YouTube, you would be nothing if not for the you in the YouTube.
Say that now.
I think
they understand what backlash is.
OnlyFans understands that. I think certain platforms still don't, though, and they need to be careful. Again, this is not a threat coming from me. This is a warning to say that if you don't have a user base, if you don't have the creators, if you do not have that relevancy, you can try to shift your platform to focus on the movie stars and the people that are already famous. But people are going to see right through that. And they're going to see that you're not being transparent. You're just looking for that money. And I think we've seen a bit of that on YouTube. And we absolutely saw a lot of that on OnlyFans. There is, I think, a light at the end of this tunnel. OnlyFans was this backlash that proved that the working class on a site can build that narrative of you can't exist without us. This platform, OnlyFans, was built on the back of sex workers. It is a household name because of sex workers. Well, and Beyonce maybe, but because the sex work was there.
So actually, you just made a very good parallel with YouTube.
Oh, thank you.
YouTube is trying to also go into this more mainstream direction, and it's forgetting about the small creators and we know this firsthand because they demonetize us for talking about sex education constantly. And we have to fight them tooth and nail every single time.
Yep.
What happens when all their small creators abandon ship?
What happens when, hypothetically, they do a pride campaign the year after they're getting sued by actual gay creators, and instead of using the community, they use movie stars like Demi Lovato or Trixie Mattel or creators that don't even create on the platform exclusively or constantly anymore. We're not idiots, YouTube. We see this the same way we saw it with OnlyFans. We see it and we all talk about it. And
we all talk about it.
We all know what's actually happening behind the scenes. So get your head out of your ass, whether you're on OnlyFans or not. Support the creators and hold platforms accountable when you see that red flag flying. Because if you don't, the content won't exist anywhere. Everything will go the way of Tumblr, and you'll just have no platforms to exist to actually consume or even post the content. And I know people laugh, but no one believed us about OnlyFans until OnlyFans said, whoop, and they dropped the hammer and pulled the rug. And
We've literally been talking about this for years. They didn't
just dropped the other foot. They threw it at someone, So am I happy that OnlyFans backtrack? Sure. Do we trust them? Absolutely not. Do I expect them to be better? But follow the creators wherever they are, and please tip your creators and performers. Please support them on the platforms. You know what? If we're given a go do something positive today, go just send some random love to a bunch of your favorite performers. And please, we're not talking about us, just any performers that you love and you enjoy and you just want to give love to. Please just do it, Daddy.
I'll take the love.
Oh, okay, Daddy.
And if you love us, ring the bell down below.
True. Again, this is an exclusive that we don't generally post the podcast on YouTube, but this is very topical, and I feel like a lot of people need some guidance and want to know our perspectives as workers and also as commentators. So if you're interested in these every week, we post them on Patreon. The podcast exists as well for free. And this has just been a really nice kind of update conversation, education, hopefully for y'all, that I think was kind of necessary. Regardless, though, please leave a comment down below if you enjoyed this podcast episode. If you want to see more of these, you know where to find it. Or maybe, I don't know, longer form stuff can always exist here if you let us know.
And tell us your perspective on this topic.
Yeah. If you like the video, Daddy,
ring that bell.
And don't forget to always have a safe word, whether you're a content creator or consumer. And today's safe word is...
Whiplash!
Whoopsh. And we'll see y'all next time.
Bye!
I wonder if OnlyFans, you could put safe word on OnlyFans. I wonder if they block that term.
I bet safe word is probably a blocked term. Let's try that.
No, I don't need to get more restrictions on any of
Which is ironic because they want channels like ours that aren't showing sex, so you couldn't even have your channel's name in it because you wouldn't be able to talk about it. Now that's irony.
Demonetized.